All right, but believe we are live. If you can hear me and the video is good, please do comment in our live video chat. My name is Jay. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com, and today we're going to talk about Los Angeles. Look, it's not going to be all doom and gloom, but we do need to face some realities when it comes to some of the housing circumstances and the changes they've made as a president. So to give context, we're going to discuss the numbers for LA, including population, the changes for voucher numbers, and the statistical odds of getting vouchers, and also being able to utilize that voucher in the city of Los Angeles. So we know that the greater Los Angeles area has around 3.8 million people. We know that during the last application period, there are roughly 200,000 applicants, which is roughly 21% of the city of Los Angeles, nearly 20%. It's very high. The only place I know it's higher would be somewhere like Miami. It was around 25%. Of the 200,000 people that applied, only 30,000 received the voucher. And then from there, 15,000 plus, nearly 50% didn't get anything. And I'm leading up to a point, so keep track of these numbers. Over 50% had a voucher, walked around, couldn't find a landlord. Landlord didn't like a voucher, or simply the voucher was not enough to actually be able to rent the property. All right, so because of the changes coming likely for 2026, where we move from a state vouchers, federal vouchers down to state vouchers, what's happening is many housing authorities in America simply are no longer receiving any money. They've frozen funds. They're working off of old funds, and they're simply not getting any more. As of right now, I believe November of this year will probably be the exhaustion of all funds across the system, and there will no longer be availability. So how does that equate to Los Angeles? Well, so we're talking 30,000 receive, over 15,000 or 50%, over 50% couldn't use it. And then it's not even including the 70,000 plus homeless that did not apply for that program. They applied for a different continuum of care. So they're putting a 10% reduction. Now you're thinking, okay, well, 10% isn't that big of a deal. Yet it is. So let's think in terms, let's do a little bit of math here. And I'm not great, okay? I'm not a mathematician. If you got a rent standard across LA where 80% of landlords want, say, $2,500 for a 2-bedroom apartment, and you got people out there, you got 30,000 people with a voucher, and 80% of those people do not have a voucher to reach that amount, then nobody wants the voucher. So you're at the tipping point, right? We're at a point where any reduction in the value of the voucher could cause a catastrophic number of people to be able to not get. So when you take this and you reduce it by 10% more, what we go from is 30,000 applicants, over 15,000 unused, to a circumstance where it'd be 30,000 applicants and 70% of all vouchers would be worthless. Nobody would want them. Because if you look at most rent standards, and if you'd like to join me, I'm going to link you up to rent standards. It's not always that landlords don't want a Section 8 voucher. What they don't want is to not be paid what they believe they're going to get. Now, if looking at this, in most cases, the Los Angeles Housing Authority is issuing vouchers roughly $200 to $400 less than what the market's actually worth. That means that most people that would have a voucher that would be able to find a landlord to use it would be a really bad property. Or in terms of Los Angeles, the housing authority is almost rigged this game. 85% of all people that use their voucher are using it in project-based situation. In other words, the Los Angeles Housing Authority owns the building. Now, you see, where that gets interesting is if you're a landlord in Los Angeles and you want to be profitable and you want to accept vouchers, you've got to do a housing quality inspection. And during that inspection, the Los Angeles Housing Authority, all this great wisdom, will determine how much money they're willing to allow you to take in rent, right? Now, when the Los Angeles Housing Authority buys up the whole market in terms of the project-based housing, do you think during their quality inspection of their self that they're offering $400 less to them, to their bank account? So they own the building, even if it's a crack house, they can approve their own rent amounts at the highest level, right? But any landlord with a really good property that's not a crack house, he's going to get an offer that's $400 or $500 less than the market rate. You see how that scam works? This is the kind of shit you people are dealing with out there. And so we're already below market. We take another 10% at the tipping point and push it down further. It means that only 30% of people that would receive a voucher in that city would ever even realistically have a chance. And what if they did get something, it'd have to be because A, it's probably a crack house, and two, because the landlord didn't know better and is just woefully just accepting less rent. And so a 10% on a deadline like that is going to create an additional 8,000 homeless. Could. Okay. So if you're not willing to take your last shoe, last flip-flop, just one flip-flop and walk out of the state of California, or at least LA, or take your voucher and port it to somewhere where rents are reasonable, another part of California, like Northern California, then pretty soon landlords, the only thing they'll be willing to rent you is a cardboard box, tent rentals. And they're going to want the maximum amount. They're going to want $3,000 a month. This is out of control. This is not the only example. I'm picking on LA today because I'm not picking on the city of LA. This is absurd. Instead of let me propose a different concept here. Let's propose that we don't reduce this 10%. How about we offer fair market rents with the money that's there? And again, I want you to understand, if you already have a voucher, you're okay, at least for now, at least till 2026. You have 4 additional months where you're safe if you have a voucher and you're using it. But anybody that gets a new voucher, it won't be worth the toilet paper's written on. No landlord within their mind is going to lease their property for $500 to $800 less than the market rate. Now, compounding the further issue is, 70,000 homeless. Then, of course, the prior video I made, there's an executive order by the president in the White House that anybody with mental health issues is suspected of having a mental health issue, or if you're suspected of using drugs or being on drugs as a homeless person, can now be removed and committed long term. Also compounded further by state regulations that have rolled across many states that have pretty much banned all homeless within the city. The executive order allows now the pretty much detention of any homeless person anywhere in the country, and it only takes suspicion. And we're not talking about a 3-day psychiatric visit. I know many homeless people, if it's too hot or too cold, you might want to check in, play a little crazy. You get a week off, 3 hots and a cot in a mental health facility, a little bit of therapy, a little bit of finger paint. And then, of course, they kick you out the door a couple of days later. You get a little reprieve, right? Not no more. You get the paddy wagon on a 1-year lease, if not more, under commitment at the federal level. Where are they going to store all these people? I don't know. Skid Row? Well, I'm sure there's plans. You guys don't pack up on Skid Row, man. I'm telling you, the feds will come out there. And it's going to be one big old deal. Probably the National Guard, thousands of school buses, bars in the window, and then all of a sudden there just won't be no Skid Row. It's been issued at the federal level. This administration is a specific nail in its ass when it comes to California. Okay, let's be honest. I'm not siding with any party, Democrats, Republicans. I can lean either way today in this video, who knows? But so now we're issuing just worthless shit. Now, the housing authority will continue to enjoy its just fruits at top rents. So they'll suck up 85% of the budget at top rent for their crack house and project-based housing that they're renting to people. And then they'll, of course, offer landlords subjectively ridiculously low rents, with people packing around toilet paper vouchers that will go nowhere. I believe that the politicians throughout the state of California and LA are doing everything they can to solve the situation, but with the ending of all homeless funding and the dissolution of most housing authorities that are no longer being funded. Look, when Trump made a decision that he wanted to dissolve 90% of the employees of HUD, he did so, and they're gone. When he wanted to get rid of 80% of the website of HUD, he did that. It is gone. It used to be 30, 40,000 pages, that website. Now it's just a couple pages, right? When he says he's going to go to special elections, and if he wins, if the House is won and remains in Republican control, he's going to attempt to clear this, and he's going to put 2-year term limits, kick everybody out. And so vouchers will be super, well, they could be worth something again under that. So there's plays that go up and down. So there's things that work and things that don't work. Right now, things are unfavorable. We got a big year coming in 2026. I can tell you guys, it's going to be an explosive fucking year. And as traditions goes with this administration, you should not expect 2027 and 2028 to be less explosive than already. In fact, I'd say double down on Sally. It might look like a game on your phone where you see little paddy wagons in every block. Those don't know, it's a derogatory term used in the early 19th century for Irish people that were arrested and put into, well, back then they didn't have police cars. They had trucks, wagons. They converted those wagons, and I put a little description on our channel. Of course, I'm not trying to be offensive to our Irish friends. If I did that, then I'd be woefully being probably mean to a lot of my relatives, though I tend to be more French, Cajun. But so the circumstances is de-evolving in LA. Only now, just to be clear, this isn't just effective in terms of people with vouchers. If you are low class and middle class, you're already on the hit list. You're competing with vouchers. Only those with exceptional incomes will remain in LA. It will simply be a city. It'll be a city of a golden cage, or what do you call it? I can't remember the name of it, but it'll be a gilded city. If you own a tech company, then you're allowed to stay barely. You might just barely make enough money to remain there. By these billionaires buying up all the housing, they're artificially creating a bubble in that city, driving massive rents because the game is profitability. They don't care. Airbnbs and rental markets, there needs to be a state level shutting down of that shit. I don't mind people being capitalists, but to the tune of pushing out 100,000 people on the streets, the shelters, all the shelters have lost funding. That's been cut too. Many will face closure or reduction. In other words, you should go in three. You might have waited at 6 o'clock in the morning at the Union Mission and down in LA. You look, you better only visit once. You get a stale donut and one free flip flop. That's it, and you're gone. You may not even get air conditioning anymore. So, what we going to do? What we going to do? Because eventually the homeless will disperse from that city. And when they do, they're going to go other places. So I'm going to take a look at these comments. The video is intended to be offensive. It's to offend your mind into thinking about what and how and where we can get solutions. I'm not here to sugarcoat shit. You want that, go down to the prayer channel. Look, right now we got to deal in facts and reality. If that offends your senses, then you're not ready. You're still living in lollipop land. I don't have time for that in this channel. All right, so Plus Size Babble says, what about Tennessee? What about it? You didn't ask a question. You just said Tennessee. All right, Sheila Davison, good morning. Hello. Princess, hi, I'm late coming in. That's all right. You're always welcome here. My channel is like the Cheers bar back in the 80s and 90s when they make Cheers. Everybody's welcome. Until you catch an attitude, I put your ass out. Sharon Keith, how can I get help getting housing? Well, there's only a few ways. You can reach out to 211 and 311 for free information, and they'll Google something up for you. You can contact your local housing authority, but they removed the phones during the pandemic, so they no longer answer doors or phones. Other thing is you can do, you reach out to our office. We do consulting work. It's not free, but our company services thousands, tens of thousands over the years. and we help people get housing. But it's not without great difficulty, and the circumstances can be rather a long timeline. And we are living in different times. We're in tough housing markets, housing bubbles. The rich have bought up a lot. We have driving forces in the market, and I'm not even an expert in economics, just Section 8 housing and federal programs. Christopher John, you're here, and I'm glad you're here, brother. Chanel Stober, it appears that the Google gods have decided to remove your comment. My hands are tied. They didn't do it. Blog and Therapy says, what about LITCH housing? There's no money. When the money runs out in November, that's the end of it. You could either, there's not a lot of options left, guys. I could say I could say more, but I mean, why would I? It would only raise suspicion, right? Why don't we arrive in November in 2026? Why don't we arrive in 2026, see what's going to happen? I already tell you how this is all that's going to happen, but since I don't read crystal balls, I'm not going to do that, but it's not going to be good. Punk my video. Deportation is the name of the game. Well, you know, if you deport your tax base, like I said in Los Angeles, you deport everybody that's Hispanic, that's going to be a problem. We have to have workforce. Not everybody can sit in the air conditioning and play on a computer all day. Okay. Hispanic communities around America that are legally here account for a great deal of work that a lot of people just don't want to do. But for as many of there as them that I mentioned there are many more that are highly, highly capable professionals, master's degrees, PhDs. We cannot subjugate just one portion of a population on the basis of their color and skin and nationality. That's ridiculous. If I did that, then half my fucking family would have been deported a long time ago. America is nothing but foreigners. That's how it was created. We really got to get over this shit. I thought that grandma and mommy taught most of you how to learn how not to be a fucking racist and a bigot. We're still struggling with that 100 to 2,000 years later. We're still struggling with that. Even if we removed every Hispanic in the country, then we move on to something new and fresh. Like, oh, well, all the fucking fat people need to get on the boat. They got to go. Then it would be all the short people. The shit, they're too short. They can't work as efficiently as the tall people. So let's be a short racist. It never ends with humans. We need to consider, first of all, we need to focus our energy on what's important. How about just housing people? And we're not even saying for free. How about just provide some housing out there? Let's build some housing and then have people rent it. This doesn't have to be a charity. People just looking for a place to rent. They're not, their hand isn't out. They're just saying they want to rent. The billionaires have all the control of that, right? There's the one with all the money and they bought up 20,000 houses and they artificially push the rents up, and then they sit quietly in their tech companies and giggle it up with a champagne and a cigar. But I mean, you got a couple of billionaires, worth $1 trillion. What the fuck do you do with $1 trillion? What do you do with that? Most people that got over $1 million, a couple of million, you end up dying of ODs and everything else. I mean, the richer you get, the less likely you're going to be alive a long time. Don't be careful how much money you got. That goes badly as well. All right, moving back. See, I go on rants. That's okay. That's what happens when you own the channel. I'm sure somebody will say something shitty, and I'll read it in the comment later. All right, so Eddie, my landlord, every year keeps raising rent. Well, Section 8 program and under the program's administrative policy allows every landlord to raise the rent by a percentage every year. Pretty normal amounts, 2 to 3%. On a mid-range, around 5%, and anything above that, 7%, I would think would be a little bit extreme. And of course, in LA, we're lowering the amount of rents we're willing to pay per landlord, so it creates a bigger problem, as you may see. Moving back down, I'm on Social Security. Well, so is 1/3 of America. That is nothing special, but thank you for sharing. I wasn't trying to be a smartass. Ella Gibbons, can't wait for your help. I'm emailing you today. So thanks so much. Well, look forward to talking to you, Yellow. You know, one of the first signs of a person being genuine is their ability to talk to you just any old way. That means you're willing to hear the truth. Christopher John, back to the paddy wagon. Many of you may have found my last video to be very comical because I talked about the paddy wagon and new rules. If you don't know what a paddy wagon is, I'd look it up. I think you'll understand where my wicked sense of humor comes from. Maggie Smith, chickens are racist to other chickens. True. Look, let's be honest, man. We're humans. We are definitely, out of all things on earth, the most fucked up thing there is. We will find anything to be a bigot and a racist about. I'm serious. We could eliminate everything. Unless there was only one human left on earth and nobody left to judge, we would continue as we always have, just to be little assholes. I feel bad for any alien that visits Earth. We'll probably rob him first. If we don't rob him, then somebody's going to rape him, right? And then after that, we've taken all of his money. Then we're going to make him homeless. And then we're going to give him, and then we're going to show the true colors of being a human. Then we're going to give him a voucher that's worthless and tell him to go rent a house like it's a fucking joke. And then when the alien has nothing left to give, it can't work. I'm talking about a green alien from Mars, right? When it can't work, do anything, then we'll kick its ass out the country. We might even send it to a prison in another country. Because that's what we do as Americans. We treat people like trash. And we create laws that allow us to be trashy. Sometimes we do it right. Sometimes we do it wrong. Some of us do the right thing. Some of us do the bad thing. It's good to just have a conversation in the open air about it. You know? All right, moving back. Sable in the process, or I should say, I digress. If I really wanted to be a nice middle-class white dude in the video talking in monotone, I would say I digress. So let's digress. In the process of moving and waiting the new landlord to accept the terms of payment and the deposit, the apartment was approved by Hackla 2 weeks ago. Well, you know, Hackla and their employees, if you ever seen their chairs, the chairs at their desk, it's hard to move that chair from their desk to the printer across the room, especially when the chair only has 3 wheels, but supposed to have 5. So you hear this horrible screeching for about a month. They're trying to get so hard to that printer, and then they're going to screech all the way back to their desk to give you a call. But turns out your phone number isn't any good anymore. They tried to mail you with a stamp, but the stamp was lost. And then don't forget that the worker didn't like it, so she actually mailed it to the wrong address. Laughed and was hoping that she could probably kick you out the program. Just one of 100 mechanisms in place to make things tough. Now that, my friends, is just me making up some bullshit, but I got to be honest. The system is tough. Make no mistake. My son's mother, I saw a previous video. It mentioned points. I am disabled, turning 70, homeless, and I've been on a voucher list for about 10 months. And they say there is a 10-month waiting list. Well, to be honest with you, a 10-month waiting list is pretty short. The real question will be is, even if you expend that amount of energy and you wait that amount of time, could you even use that voucher? Since I don't know the context of your circumstances, your case, what you need, what you faced, what you've tried, and what might be effective, I couldn't tell you. If you're looking to further that process, you might want to reach out to my office or another that handles federal programs. All right, moving on, digressing. Let's digress to Eddie. Then they pay $1,100. He wanted $2,100. Well, now take that and slash off another 10%. We are having, what do we call that when you have a big sale? I forget the name of that. A fire sale. So we're having a fire sale in LA. We're shutting fire to another 8,000 or 9,000 vouchers because nobody wants them. Double C, my rent was raised in 2023 from $1,200 to $1,600. That's about right. See that $400 mark? Add another 10%. We want to make sure that voucher is completely useless. Double C, PS5 gamers are racist towards Xbox gamers. That's the tough one, right? It won't be long for my cats turn into racist, right? They're not going to like the different color fucking cats. The orange cat, then I got black cats, I got white cats. Next thing you know, we're running a madhouse. I got racist cats. I got brown cats too. The brown ones don't like the white ones. So what are we going to do? But the difference between humans and cats are if they decide they don't like somebody, it's on the basis of being genuine. Humans, it's always self-serving and never for a very good reason, right? It's like kindergarten for races. I got to put that shit in check. I don't have time for that in this channel. We got more things to worry about than finger paints and what color people are. We need to focus on housing. People get housing so they can rent something. It's called the tax base. We can't run the whole country on the income of the middle class. About time to seize Mark Zuckerberg's properties, his assets, seize all of Google's assets. There's a couple trillion we could put right on the budget tomorrow to seize all that shit. But if they did that, then I wouldn't be here, right? No YouTube channel, that's for sure. All right, moving on down, digressing. Chanel Stober. If this passes, we will have the worst crisis in. Well, one thing Americans are good at is we create crises, and what we're successful at is creating bigger ones each time. So this will be among the biggest we're going to see next year. But we, as good, true-blooded, red-blooded Americans, we're going to create an even bigger fucking mess the year after that one. All right? So this is just how we operate under this pressure. Has anybody please raise your hand in the kindergarten class if we have ever had, in memory, the last 10 years, and we have not had a housing crisis? Can anybody attest, okay, on the podium behind the preacher, that at any point in the last 10 years, that city government all shook hands, the White House all shook hands, said, hey, we solved homelessness, all vouchers work, landlords are throwing parties, they're giving out champagne to the tenants, everybody's happy. It doesn't work that way. It's always a bloodbath, and the bigger and bigger bloodbaths, right? Guys, I warned you years and years about Florida. 10 years. Go back on my channel analytics. 2015. People making fun of California. It's playing out in Florida. Oh, boy. And let me tell you, the shit's really hit the fan in that state. Problem about talking shit is sometimes you end up eating it. The state of Florida's fixing to do that because they're being driven in the market by the wealthy. They're buying up everything, and we're doing, we're renting out properties on these sites, and there's a lot of seniors there. The market has become completely astronomically out of control in pricing. City of Miami alone, look, if you got a quarter of the population calling the housing authority to get a voucher, you're in trouble as a city. 1/4. And only 3% of the city owns all of it. We get golf courses and country clubs out there, right? I get it. Just fruits. You earned your money. We're capitalists, right? Fuck everybody else. Don't worry about the homeless. Push them off the bridge. Don't worry about the elderly. We'll put them down like cats and dogs. Take them down the vet, put them down. They no longer produce taxes. Fuck it. They're just going to be a draw in our society. That's where we're reaching these points quicker and quicker as a society. Seniors, homeless, disabled. We'd have cities and nothing but rich people, and everybody else would be outside the Golden Gate. You can be rich, and unfortunately, there will be laws in the future probably prevent you from visiting the trash outside the gate, including grandma and grandpa. They'll need a special voucher just to go in the city. Because we can't have poor trash in the city, can we? Only the wealthy are allowed to be there. Entire states in the future probably will be that way. These meccas. They'll let you in if you want to spend a little bit of money. But you got to go. You can't live here. No, sir. You bring us your little paycheck. You burn it up. We'll give you 30 minutes in our city. Then you get the fuck out. We don't want you here. This is what we're coming to. To be honest with you, I'll be glad when we move to the space race because at least there's more asteroids to rent, right? We're running out of places on this old planet. The solution's right in front of our face. Some people need help. We need to provide that. It comes with terms, of course. But us as Americans, we can't offer a solution and thus also indenture. If you don't know what indenture is, look it up. Because that's when we become a country of slave owners, where we enslave the people that don't have. That's the real moral of the story. That's the real ethical point of all this. This is where it's all going. It isn't a singular man that's going to create this. We as a country are creating it. It's not just Donald Trump or Joe Biden. We're collectively reasoning ourselves into madness with all this shit. We're justifying it. Oh, well, I've got my $90,000 pickup that's never even drove over a pothole. I'm going to go drive back to my house in the fancy neighborhood, and every time I see somebody that doesn't have more than $20,000 in their bank account, we can't talk to that trash. Can't have my children going to trash schools either. Whole cities just wiping out people. My own city, where I grew up, Baton Rouge, same way. Them ignorant people over there, they still segregate white and black people, man. They got a whole fucking neighborhoods, nothing but white, trying to create their own fucking zip code. And everybody else. What is this? Have we learned nothing? Are we still thinking about plantations? So the reason I'm bringing racism, bigotry, and other issues is because it's a countrywide problem. The only thing it's done is it's changed its ugly face. And the reason I'm having this topic is because it strongly influences housing. Except the new form of racism isn't about really that color anymore. It's about rich and poor. It's the greatest evil that we have now, the have and have-nots. That is the modern form of slavery. It is the modern form of racism. Oh, look at Nancy. That bitch goes and gets her shit at fucking Kmart. Don't talk to her. I bet she turns tricks in her front lawn. But that's what we face today. My Hispanic friends out there, legally here, watch out. They arrest everybody. I was reading the news the other day. Police officer got arrested. Imagine that. We're now arresting the police. I understand change needs to come about, but it cannot be at the will and comfort of an entire country. We cannot be self-serving and only serve half the country. So we need to all think about what's reasonable and come back to reality. I wonder if a world and a society will do so. And the Thunderground, the Thunderdome is LA. LA is a testing ground of all this. It is the center of all of it. The new center of it will likely be Florida. And then following in suit, places like New York and the state I presently live in, Texas. So moving back to comments, I'll digress now that I've given my kindergarten class on lectures of ethics, if I even have any left. It's hard to have ethics when a lot of people don't. You know, you can't fight fire with fire, right? You got to fight it with water. Double C, my rent from $1,200 to $1,600. Not surprising. Princess, HUD staff is being replaced now quietly. Yeah, well, it's a bit late. When you remove the foundation of a house, it's never good anymore, is it? The damage to HUD has already been done. It's even lost its building. There's no U.S. president now or in the future that's going to try to rebuild the system. So most of you need to get used to the idea of all funding going through the state. The feds will give the money to the state. The state will create its own vouchers, and that'll be the system you'll be operating in starting in 2026 and going and beyond. The system is too damaged at this point. It's been ripped apart. No politician, Democrat or Republican, is going to walk it off and go, oh, yeah, you know what? My agenda won't be education or the safety of the country. I'd like to recreate HUD. He won't get elected, so nobody's going to want to do that. Now, as a prize, as a small little tinkering prize, I would imagine if a Democrat went in there, he won't fix anything, but he'll offer more funding probably. That's it. But that is going to fix something that's broken. So it's best we move on to the new system and start coming to that reality. Congress approves it next year. There'll be 2-year term limits for anybody that is not a person that is 62 years and older. and cannot prove they're disabled on the new rules, or have a family member that's A or B. I'm uncertain to the future of veterans. The White House has not spoken on that yet. There are no indications that Democrats will take the House or the Congress, so I don't see any logical way or reasoning in which this would not be passed. I also don't think most people that are in this administration's circle are willing to challenge that man. And so thus I see it clearing. I don't see a way around it. There are miracles, but even if it weren't approved, the most we can hope for is some moderation of it. In other words, they may agree to do less than what this administration plans to do. But so far, everything on his list has been approved. Moving back on down. Again, I'm not badgering anybody. We're just talking on both sides of the platform today. My mother's sister says, can you explain preferences? Well, preferences is when a housing authority categorizes, when a housing authority has certain ideals, okay? It's a lot like being a racist, right? They look at prioritizing specific people in certain facts. The homeless, disabled, seniors, veterans, domestic violence, top 5 categories. Exiting the top 5 categories starting next year will be the homeless are no longer important and will no longer be a factor in whether or not a housing authority or a state level voucher will consider you for housing anymore. Moving on from that, being a domestic violence victim is no longer important. According to new rules, potentially rolling out next year. Veterans, I don't know, so I'll leave you at a half a finger. Only 2 fingers left. Disabled, 62 and older, that's it. Otherwise, you get a 2-year voucher. The minute you don't follow those rules, you're out, the voucher's gone, and that's the end of it. I do not know if you can repeatedly apply for that. They have not set the rules. Beyond that, if you don't meet the work, and you have work required, it'd be just like the food stamp card. And here's the deal. If we watch closely at how food stamps work, most seniors, including my mother before she passed this year, had food stamps. Okay. They issued her, she had I think it was $915 a month. The food stamp office offered her $15. If the vouchers work that way, the more income you make in receiving that temporary 2-year voucher likely will work a lot like food stamps. In other words, if you're making a certain amount of money, then likely you'll receive a $100 voucher to use. And so it's not worth it. Do you think any landlord is going to want to take that 2-year voucher? That's a joke. So say you work at Kmart part-time and you got a little bit of money, but you can't afford the rest. Well, you make just enough to pretty much zero out the 2-year voucher you get. So once they give your $10 and change for rent on that voucher, you need to find a landlord to accept it. You got to pay the rest of the rent. This is being modeled very strongly after how the food stamp game works in most states. I'm being subjective right now, and I'm also speculating. But we do have ever clear and present record of looking at things, seeing how it's played out, and there's always a close correlation. And so I'm closely examining that. When I say the housing authorities, look around the nation, type in the word Section 8 Housing Authority into Google News, Yahoo News, MSN News. What you will see is most housing authorities saying that they're freezing funds, they're out of funds, or either bankrupt. The administration is not refunding housing authorities, period. It's a guess as to whether or not those that are in LITCH or tax credit properties, if the U.S. government will even continue to honor those contracts if this is approved next year. Okay? So there are more questions than there are answers. I have been trying very hard to get director reports from HUD, also looking at executive orders through the White House, looking at plans through Congress and the House, and it's not a lot right now. There's not a lot to digest. The current administration and Mr. Trump usually reveal their plans at the last minute as a bombshell. Okay, that's how he operates. That's how he controls his narrative. I get it. That's business. Sometimes it's fair. Sometimes it's not. Some of us like it. Some of us don't. I don't have the luxury to be either or. Not while being a consultant at the federal level. All right, moving on from there. I digress once again. Billy D, my landlord just said, if you are priced out, sucks to be you. That's what an asshole does. I'd advise you to be one right back, Bill. Just don't break the law, okay? Sheila Davidson, wow. Extra delight. All human beings are material. I'm sure if we can reason there is a God, that would be the case. But we live in a different world, don't we? The new gods are the ones that have all the money. It certainly seems that way in material context. It's a dangerous game. 1% of the planet owning 90% is a dangerous fucking game. It's going to create the world's biggest plantation. And many of you that agree with all this shit, as time rolls on and you become indentured as the middle class, oh, well, I've got a job. I'm not one of these trashy people with Section 8. And it turns out you end up being part of that game. I'll not move a fucking finger to help you. I got lots of soccer moms and dads that have to face cold realities. One minute they're a big mouth all over social media, and now they're crawling around like rats and roaches, begging for help quietly. I don't service assholes. You'll have to slither around and crawl around like a rat and roach. You want to support these games, then learn to digest it on your own. I'm not going to help you. My office won't. I'm here to help genuine people that need help, that are willing to do so legally. Maggie Smith, tutor Haitians in English. The family we were here legally has fled to Canada. Look, even the Canadians are fleeing here. I think, who would we want to come to right now? I mean, there's so much shit going on. And I'm not. This is not a whack at me taking a stick and whacking at Donald Trump or the administration. I'm just saying, as a country, we got a lot of problems, and we don't look too good. We don't look good at all on the whole global platform. We have many, many countries that now put warnings against coming to our country because of all the issues we have. It's dangerous. Prince, BCAT. It's going to be a damn mess. It always has been. Now it's just an explosive mess. Maggie Smith says, I live in Payette County, Wyoming. All kinds of programs here in limbo. Here, if you want to help, you have to join the church otherwise. Well, that might be a thing in the future. People, when usually when secular people run out of options, they run to the church. Better shake a little change in that bowl, because the church will probably be the last thing standing. That's only because the rich have not figured out a way to monetize that. Sanjo, I hope I'm saying that right. I've been saying that landlords aren't going to want to take a tenant and that only gets a voucher for 2 years. There are some that will, but competition levels in places like LA would be the number of people. It would be too extraordinary. Why would a landlord want to accept your shitty voucher if another person has a voucher is going to pay more? Why would a landlord even want to answer the phone when they received 91,000 calls in May for one fucking property? The city of Los Angeles needs to ban house rentals, okay? The housing market is no longer in a bubble. The bubble's burst. It's explosive. In Texas, I'm watching something I never played out in my own city, which we're following suit to Florida and on affordability. I'm watching grandparents build multiple houses on their properties, trying to house the whole fucking family on 1 acre. On a street in the past 2 years that I live on, I've watched probably out of the 30 homes that are here, over half have built additional rentals. Yeah. Ugh. So what it tells me is we're either getting greedy. It's a good market to be greedy in, right? Make some more money. Or a lot, what I do actually really see is not greed, is just, at least here, I'm seeing that families are just trying to build as many houses on their land as they can to help the entire family. Those that are older have that option. The kids in the future probably won't. A lot of you buying these micro houses, that's not much to leave. All right, moving on from there. Maggie Smith goes on to say, West Virginia. So on a big recap of numbers and the truest purpose of this video, 3.8 million people in the city of Los Angeles, 200,000 applied last go round, 30,000 received a voucher, 15,000 or 50% or more. Those vouchers were worthless and unused. HACLA, the housing authority in Los Angeles, determined to lower rent standards, additional 10%. Why that 10% is actually a big, big problem. If we already are offering $400, if you're offering if a rental is $2,500, and before this, we were offering giving out vouchers that are worth $400 less than what landlords want. You stack another 10% on there. You go from a breaking point to breaking the system altogether. In other words, we're just issuing worthless vouchers. That means that of 30,000 vouchers, where it was 50% of people that had worthless vouchers, now will be closer to 70 to 80% of all vouchers issued in the Los Angeles area will be absolutely fucking worthless. They're worthless because if they're too low, nobody wants them. Maybe we need to sit down and look at every file and review every case in the Los Angeles Housing Authority and see how many people don't deserve that voucher and kick their ass out. Okay? Maybe that'd be a better option. Let's not lower it. Let's up it 10%. And let's get rid of all of them that just don't meet a standard. Get tough about this. What I mean by deserve is you got a voucher and you're just sitting there and your whole plan in life is to do nothing more than to keep that voucher and not make $1 more and then kick them out. These vouchers were never designed to be lifetime vouchers unless you're a senior or you're in a wheelchair, So if the whole goal is to receive a voucher and just ride the charity wheel till it breaks, then it's time to get rid of the charity wheel. If there's no incentive to do more, to graduate out of Section 8, then maybe it is time for some changes. So I both support and oppose certain concepts. We get too many people, man, just resting on vouchers. You got a mom with kids. Hey, when them kids grow up and can go down to Popeyes, check it and work, fuck it. You don't need that voucher anymore, darling. Kids are raised. You don't even be keeping the voucher 30 years. You need to move out, get into one bedroom, get back to all the 15 bedrooms, tell the kids, hey, get a job or get out. You go down and rent you a place in Skid Row. We got to get real about this. We're giving out vouchers to crazy ass people. Lifetime vouchers. You out your mind? If we're going to give out lifetime vouchers, I want a fucking refund on my mortgage. So Los Angeles needs to re-review all those applications. You got people turning tricks and smoking crack, and they in a vouchered house. Well, look, they don't need Section 8. They need Section 9. 3 hots and a cot in the federal prison, followed by a lifetime ban of everybody involved in that house, because everybody that sleeps in that house is complicit unless they are below 18. Oh, well, I didn't know mom was smoking crack pipe in that house. Tough shit. Don't play a fool. No, ain't nobody a fool. LA needs to look at that. Investigate this shit. Kick about 15,000 people out. Besides that, Donald Trump says next year we're getting that paddy wagon. That paddy wagon will be every corner. To remind you, 2-year term limits. You're going to watch the largest max exodus of vouchers in U.S. history. It will wipe out 60% of the people that have vouchers in the first 2 years. Anybody gets a 2 year, the minute you give lip, attitude, or problem to these people, you're out of there. You decide you want to quit working at Popeyes, drink cold beer, and sit in the front lawn all day, you're done. Effective 30 days later, you're out. But one thing I want to say is not everybody with a voucher is trying to do the wrong thing. Not everybody with a voucher is a drug addict. In fact, the largest portion of people that utilize the program need it. But the excess is the tipping point. 15 to 20% don't need it. We're just sitting on it. Mama and Papa did not will you a voucher. We're not going to play these games like they did in New York, generational vouchers. If you can't teach children to be nothing more than trash, then you need to get your mind straight. Kids have, just because you fucked your life don't mean your kids are. So it means you need to support them by getting in school, getting out there, and getting real jobs. Not to act like yourself. For those that are sitting on vouchers for the wrong reason. I sympathize with mothers that have been left, don't have a husband, don't have a boyfriend, whatever, and they got a lot of kids. I sympathize in that circumstance up to the point them children are raised. When one hits 18, time to move. You got to give your son or daughter walking papers to go out there and be an adult. We got to make some hard choices as a country. And they may seem unreasonable, but they're not unethical. They're not immoral, in my opinion. Because these vouchers on the long term, for those that need it, the 20% that are sucking it up need to go. In the future, vouchers are no longer going to be a circumstance where you just sit on them. Oh, well, I got my GED in third grade, and I've been working at McDonald's 38 years. I'm not going to do nothing with myself. I'm okay with just wearing one flip-flop to work. That shit's got to stop. And again, I don't want to offend anybody that works at Popeyes or McDonald's. I mean, clearly, people that don't want to work don't even, work there. Some of the most abused people on the planet probably work at McDonald's and Popeyes. Hell, I've been to a few of them, and I see how bad customers treat those young adults. No wonder people at McDonald's are assholes. And they're one of the more friendly ones. You really want to have a battle? You go pick a fight at Popeyes, you might actually get beat up. Because people ain't going to take shit like that there. They'll jump through the window and whoop your ass. Ain't nobody trying to hear your shit anymore. So the customer's no longer right. So unless you want to get shot at Popeyes by a worker, keep running your mouth with that microphone, you might end up eating it. I hate to say it, but, we live in real times. All right, so I digress. Sanjo, will this be affecting California? Sanjo, I'm concerned about you. If you don't want that paddy wagon, Sanjo, please don't ask questions like that. Of course, it's going to affect California. I mean, what the fuck have we been talking about for an hour here? Come on, man. You've been drinking again early in the morning. You got to quit going down to Cheers bar, man. Everything nice says. I would get the voucher and pour it out. Let me tell you something. I'd rather, if I had a voucher, okay, and I used to a long time ago. I also was homeless. I was raped for 10 years, a long time ago. If I had a voucher and I was going to be broke, look, I'd rather be broke in Hawaii. I'd rather be busted with a tent in Hawaii than sitting on a sidewalk in San Francisco kicking used needles. If you're homeless, man, at least find somewhere nice to go. How the hell you want to sit in the center of hell? Look, I know you guys know you could shake a change cup at the light in LA and make $40 in no time. That's a bus trip to somewhere nicer. If I was on, look, I would go to the damn beach. Why the hell would I want to sit in a burning ass city that didn't even want me? But that's what drug addiction does, and it's a big problem. Not that everybody's a drug addict. You got part-timers, full-timers. Like I told you yesterday, if you don't think Martha Stewart ain't done a line in her bathroom, you're out your mind. I might even comment about Donald Trump. He look like he's done a little bit of everything. So is Joe Biden. We're all human. We've all done things. It's all about the haves and have-nots. If you're rich and you do a line of coke, then you're considered an entrepreneur. You do a line of coke and you're poor, you're considered a crackhead. See how the game works? If you're rich, you get treatment at the Alpine treatment in the mountains. If you're poor, you get the paddy wagon to the county jail. You see how the game works? Tough times. Well, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you today. I've said as much as I wish to say about this subject matter. The reality has always been the same with this. It's going to create a problem. We'll find out how big of a problem it's going to be. We're also going to go head first into the new year. We're going to see what's going to be approved and what's not. We'll transition to a new system. There'll be tears for everybody, I'm sure. With great change comes sometimes good results, and with it will also be bad results. We need to accept the good and the bad. Look, you can't change an entire system without things happening. So that's where we stand. So I'm going to continue to monitor the White House, Congress, the House policies, procedures, rules, and I'll bring you things as they come. So far, it usually only takes me about a week. That's pretty fast to get the updates. And I've supported that largely by linking directly to the federal agencies to give these mandates. This is not me talking outside of my head. The rest of it is just me being somebody from South Louisiana. I talk a little smack in my videos. That's all right. What else you got to do? You can go watch a cartoon channel. At least I try to be entertaining. I could be Section 8 consulting with a guy that just sits here and talk monotone about nothing worth the time of day. And sometimes I do. All right, guys. Well, I'll see y'all tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central Standard, Sunday morning. Sure, I'll have something spicy in my gumbo to talk about because we never have a shortage of shitty things to talk about. But, with a lot of big changes, there are going to be lots of disappointments. But I also believe that in the short term, we're going to start seeing some progress and some good news. Okay? I've enjoyed talking with everybody. Please have a great day. If you're struggling out there and you're having a hard time navigating the system, you have problems with your landlord, you have problems with tenancy, housing, vouchers, you can reach out to our company, section8consulting.com. We help people, and we have so now 15 years of videos, over 1,000. Though we're not free, we offer some of the most successful casework you can probably get across the country. It may be an option as a last resort. All right, it's been great. Bye-bye.